What is up, everybody? Welcome into it, the Porch, a Volquest.com baseball podcast. I am Eric Kane. This show is presented by our great friends over at Spivey King and Spivey LLP. If you've got a problem, let them find a solution for you. That is T and Trial Lawyers. Free consultation by dialing the phone number 423-245-4185. 423-245-4185. Again, a free consultation. You can check them all out at Spivey King and Spivey LLP.com as well. Massive week coming up. like it needs to even be said. Final weekend of the regular season, okay? Who would have thought a month ago that we'd be sitting here saying, okay, well, Tennessee's going to be playing for its NCAA regional hosting life this weekend on the road at Arkansas. A bunch of different scenarios to go into and everything, but any way you want to spin it, more so than even thinking about postseason play, NCAA regionals, Hoover, Tennessee's lost 5 of 6. Tennessee's lost 4 straight. Tennessee's 2-5 in rubber matches. Tennessee has dropped 4 straight rubber matches. Tennessee needs to win a series in the worst way. It needs to win a series in the worst way. And it's funny because Arkansas is in a similar boat as well. We'll get into that here in a moment. Got a big show lined up. We're going to talk with Charlie Taylor here in just a couple of minutes. I'm going to try to get out of the way and let these other guys do the talking. Charlie Taylor, former ball catcher. We're going to look back on the Vanderbilt series loss, what went wrong, how you fix it, all that and more. Andrew Ellis of Inside Arkansas, who covers the Razorback program. He's going to join the show after Charlie Taylor and give us an in-depth scout on the Hogs. And then I'll come back and I'll share some parting thoughts on the series about Arkansas and, of course, what Tennessee's going to do with the starting rotation, which I'm sure you saw already. I put it out there earlier today that it's going to be Marcus Phillips. It's going to be pitching on Thursday night. Liam Doyle is going to stay on normal rest. Blister and his workload in recent weeks. Remember, he had 2 appearances against Auburn. He's going to pitch on Friday on normal rest, and then Tegan Coons will pitch on Saturday in the series finale. Remember, Thursday through Saturday weekend series this week across the SEC as the regular season comes to a close. So big show lined up, but it's funny anyway. Back to my point, Arkansas's also lost 4 or 5 series, and it doesn't feel like it's that dire, need of a win for Arkansas because that one series win was a sweep against previously number 1 ranked Texas, and Texas, who of course is projected to be the number 1 overall seed right now, at least in these projections. So both teams looking for a series win in the worst way, need a series win in the worst way. And when you look at the latest Field of 64 projections, we'll start with the good first. This is from Jonathan Wagner over at On3. This is from Monday of this past week, and he has Tennessee as the number 15 overall seed. So still clinging on to an NCAA regional host line. 15 is the seed, and the Knoxville regional would consist of Dallas Baptist, who would be the number 2 seed, Kansas, which would be the number 3 seed, and Texas Tech, which would be the number 4 seed. It would match up with the winner of the Auburn regional, which was the number 2 overall seed. Miami's in that regional, Michigan's in that regional, and Oral Roberts is also in that regional. Again, this is just a projection. This is the better one this week. That has Tennessee still actually hosting an NCAA regional as the 15th overall seed. In this projection, again, Jonathan Wagner on 3. He has Texas is the number 1 overall seed, Auburn 2, Florida State 3, Vanderbilt 4, Georgia 5, LSU 6, Oregon State 7, Arkansas 8, UCLA 9, North Carolina 10, Alabama 11, Coastal Carolina 12, Oregon 13, Clemson 14, Tennessee 15, and UC Irvine 16. Those are the top 16 national seeds. Now, that was the good, if you want to say that, for Tennessee. The bad was the Field of 64 projections from D1 Baseball, and honestly, can't blame them, right? I mean, Tennessee's dropped 5 of 6. If Tennessee loses this series going into the Hoover and the SEC tournament, Tennessee will have lost 6 of their past 7 weekend series, and you don't deserve to host if that's the regard, if that's the path you're on right now. So hopefully Tennessee can turn it around this weekend. But nonetheless, according to D1 Baseball, which of course is think very highly of them, that's the poll for the rankings that we follow here at Volquest.com. Tennessee is not hosting a regional. Okay, it is a number 2 seed in the West Virginia regional, which is the 16th overall seed. So the Morgantown regional. Tennessee would be the 2 seed there, with West Virginia the host seed, 16th overall, 1 seed in that Morgantown regional. Virginia is the 3 seed, Holy Cross is the 4 seed. It would match up with the 1 seed, number 1 overall, Texas in the Austin regional. Texas, Dallas Baptist being the 2 seed, UT Rio Grande Valley the 3 seed, and Oral Roberts the 4 seed. So those are 2 of the projections we've looked at right now. In case you're wondering, the complete 16 host seeds according to D1 Baseball in the Field of 64 projections this week: Texas 1, LSU 2, Arkansas. Of course, Tennessee going to play the Hogs this weekend, 3. Florida State is 4, Vanderbilt is 5, Georgia is 6, Auburn is 7, North Carolina is 8. Oregon is 9, Coastal Carolina is 10, UCLA is 11, Oregon State is 12, TCU is 13, Alabama is 14, NC State is 15, and West Virginia is 16. All right, so that's a look at the projections here this week. D1 Baseball also says that Tennessee's fallen out of the mix to be a host site, dropping 5 of the last 6 series, but, quote, could get right back into the mix with a road series win over Arkansas. Now, you win this series, you're probably back on the host line heading into Hoover, okay? You lose this series 1-2, you win a couple of games in Hoover, maybe you bounce back. It doesn't count towards your conference record wins or losses in Hoover, but the committee will absolutely take that into consideration considering it's a Southeastern Conference tournament. Talking with people on the board earlier this week, and somebody said, well, all you need to do is win one, right? I mean, if you win just one at Arkansas, I wouldn't feel good about hosting an NCAA regional at all. Right? I mean, you need to win that series and you feel pretty good about it depending on what happens in Hoover. So, big weekend implication-wise this weekend at Arkansas. It's a place where Tennessee hasn't won since 2015. Arkansas has won 9 of the last 10 matchups. It is what it is. Tony Vitello was a longtime assistant there. There's the persona. There's the thought that he and, Tony doesn't like Arkansas. I think that he's friends with the coaching staff. I think that's a big misconception. But anyway, it should be spicy. It should be interesting. Of course, that's one of the better venues in all of college baseball and certainly in the SEC. So should be a good one. We'll talk more about Arkansas coming up here in a moment. First, Charlie Taylor's going to join the show. We're going to look back to the Vanderbilt series. That series lost, what went wrong, the struggles with Marcus Phillips, hitting with runners in scoring position, all that and more. How do you fix it? If you're in that dugout, where do you go from here? Charlie Taylor's coming up next. Right after Charlie, I'll bump into my conversation with Andrew Ellis of Inside Arkansas, and he'll tell us all about the Hogs. That's coming up next. It's coming up right now here on your Porch podcast ahead of Tennessee and Arkansas. Charlie Taylor joining us here on the Porch as Tennessee's getting ready for the final regular season series of the year. Can't even believe it, man. Has it flown by being away from the team this year more than during the season? Because for me, I say it every single year, but this year specifically, I don't know if it's because I just had a kid a few weeks ago, but it's like, man, this season has flown by.
Yeah, no, I'm with you. It's flown by big time. Probably just because I'm not, in the day to day and the grind and playing against this top level competition every weekend.
Yeah. All right, let's not bury the lead, man. Things aren't good right now, is what it is. It's been a bad 5 weeks or so. Tennessee's lost 5 of the last 6 series, 4 straight. Tennessee's dropped 4 straight rubber matches. Tennessee is 2-5 in rubber matches so far this year. I believe, I need to double check this, really bad at my job. I believe this is the most home series losses of the Vitello era. Just wild. It's weird. It's late in the year. Obviously, there's so much talent on this roster. Tony Vitello is the best recruiter in the country. How do you move on from this, man? Like it's tough and it's too late in the year, but like we've seen teams get hot at the right time. Florida last year, Ole Miss a couple years ago. Like, how do you get out of your own way and just try to move on from this? Enter the SEC tournament, postseason play with some momentum that you haven't really felt for the past month or so.
Yeah, I mean, as the Vol fans have been spoiled as fans for the last few years. We haven't had to go through a lot of the losses and the battle scars that a lot of other programs have accumulated here. But this is part of it. And like you said, the good thing is the talent is there. They have the guys and the culture and that locker room to get it done. So it's really just a matter of execution. And it's tough to view it like this right now, but they can use all of this adversity that's come their way throughout the season to mold into something really special to propel them into the postseason, or it could turn the other way on them and kind of crumble. So,
I've looked up this stat. Me and Brent Hubbs did this earlier in the week, and I thought it was telling. I mean, you knew like the national championship hangover or whatever. Like essentially in recent history, it's been tough for teams coming off a championship, and like you mentioned, spoiled with all the winning here lately. It feels like it's just so bad. I wouldn't say rock bottom because it's certainly not rock bottom, but it feels like it's just so bad here lately. But looked up the stat, Charlie. It's pretty remarkable, man. Tennessee right now entering this weekend, 15-12 in SEC games. Um, that is the best conference record following a national championship in the last 4 years. LSU won it in 23. They were 13-17 in the league the following year. Ole Miss won it in 22. They were 6-24 the next year. Mississippi State won it in 21. They were 9-12. No champion in 2020. Vanderbilt won in 2019, but of course, no SEC season in 2020, so we don't know about Vanderbilt. The outlier in this, from the SEC at least, Oregon State in 2018, they had a pretty successful run in 2019 in the Pac-12, but lost in the regionals. The outlier in this from the SEC is Florida. They won the Natty in 2017. They were 20-10 in conference play the next year. But point is, it's like, well, you hear about the struggles, but like when you see it written down like that, it's like, man, 15-12. It's not too bad, right? You feel like everything's bad. It's been a lot worse for the teams like Ole Miss and Mississippi State. Still doesn't make you feel any better, but it just goes to show you how hard it is to win at an elite level after you've reached that pinnacle.
Yeah, I mean, and a good year in the SEC is 500, 15-15. So, in my opinion, any win mark above that 15 win mark is a good year. So, I mean, they're there already, and they're regardless of whether they finish out strong here and have an opportunity to play at home in the postseason or whether they got to do it on the road. At a minimum, they're going to have the opportunities in front of them to be able to accomplish whatever they want to. But as you're saying, I think it speaks to it's just human nature, right? You accomplish something like winning a national championship for your program, and the guys who were on that team or the guys coming in, it's hard to to win that championship and then go back and do all the things that got you there consistently. So I'm not saying that they haven't been doing those, but it's just sometimes you need to get punched in the mouth a little bit to remind yourself, okay, hey, this is why this program is so good.
Is there some parallels right now? Like, maybe it's we were talking about it before recording. I'm just going to be completely honest. It's hard to be the team after the team, right? Is there some parallels to 2023? And I know that everybody's kind of comparing this and everything, especially with the Vanderbilt series. But like, meaning 2022, sure, you didn't go to Omaha and all that, but I mean, that team was that team, right? And then 2023 started, and you start 5-10 in league play. Is there maybe some parallels? Obviously, they didn't win the national championship, but obviously, replacing the team that was historic at the time.
Yeah, no doubt. There's a little bit of that. As far as just the makeup of the team, I would say that the that 23 pitching staff was loaded, similar to what I think this lineup is really loaded, maybe young at times, but I think it's a really loaded lineup. So again, as we talked about, the talent is there, and they also have enough senior leadership, not senior, they have Hunter, obviously, who's been awesome, but
Yeah.
upper class leadership, experienced leadership. They have enough to, carry them on whatever kind of postseason run they want to go on. So we'll see what happens.
You look at that senior leadership at Hunter Ensley, and man, I feel for him right now because he's kind of the lone wolf. I mean, I know there are some returners that won a championship with you guys last year, but he's kind of that senior leader that came back. He's having a phenomenal year. I mean, phenomenal year. Made a couple of amazing catches again in center field. Robbed a 2-run home run. Had a big home run. All that. He's hitting like 360, leading the team in RBI. And it means something to him. I mean, he was ready to throw down. I don't know if you saw any of the videos or anything. He was ready to throw down after that. After the series was over and he was walking back from third base. I'm not saying he was in the right. I don't know who started talking. Whatever, it is what it is. But it's always good from my perspective, and you're obviously from the player's perspective. Like, it's always good to see, man, this team's got some fight. It means something to them. But also, it's kind of like, okay, well, that's great, but like, how do you take that fight and win games? And I'm not a coach. I don't know what that is. So I guess what I'm trying to ask is, clearly this team's got fight. You saw Andrew Fisher homer earlier in the game on Sunday, and he's saying this is our effing house, and all that. Everybody gets warned, and so they're trying to create some juice for themselves. That it still just hasn't felt like it's been enough here lately. How much can you go on those fumes, and when do they run out? And I guess what I'm trying to say is how can you try to translate those into wins? I did a really bad job asking that question, but go ahead.
No, I got you. And first, I'll say, if I'm getting in a scrap, Hunter Ensley is my first call. He's the guy I want on my side. But yeah, it's tough. Sometimes we have talked about how in 23 it was a crazy Friday night win against Vanderbilt that sparked that run. Yeah, it's really you can't force it. You just have to keep showing up with good energy and doing the things that have got you to this point, and trust that your talent mixed with your preparation is gonna is gonna pay off at some point. And then there's also something to be said for, I don't know the right way to put it, but kind of just like screw it. Let's throw all the analytics and the overthinking out, and let's just go out there and play baseball like we did when we were in Little League.
Yeah. I mean, I think it was, a point in time, maybe last week, 2 weeks ago, when Tony was essentially said, "Hey, this is our lineup. We're going to go." Just like in 23, it was like, "This is our lineup." Just like last year, it was like, "These are our guys." And then they weren't winning. So he was like, "All right, well, screw it. Jay Abernathy, you're the DH. Chris Newstrom, you get 2 starts, da-da-da." And so, like, you're seeing the mixing and matching. And that's kind of what brings me to my next point. Tony, very, very vocal with the media this past weekend, frustrated, obviously. And he's frustrated with Marcus Phillips. I don't think he's frustrated in the fact, and I'm sure he doesn't like it, with the managing of the run game, which we'll get to in a moment. But I think what set him over the edge is Marcus didn't cover the first base bag in the fourth inning, and that's when things kind of spiraled to that 5-run inning or whatever it was, 4-run inning, 3-run inning, whatever it was. And he made the comment a couple of times, like, "I don't know who's going to pitch on Saturdays. Saturday got to pick it up and all that." My question to you is, like, if you move Marcus out of the rotation, I mean, who are you going to replace him with? Marcus, the pitcher, has been really good this year. But how do you weigh that I can't manage the runners and that's hurting the team? Whereas it's like, I think somebody mentioned to me earlier in the week, like, I'd love to see Marcus in 1 inning spurts. If you do that, like, you don't have enough pitching to get through a weekend, much less a regional, in my opinion. So for me, Charlie, like, Marcus has got to throw. He's got to start for you. How do you help him manage those runners? Because that is his biggest downfall right now, because Marcus, the pitcher, is really good. He's been your second best pitcher outside of maybe Dylan Lloyd in the bullpen all year long.
Yeah, and I mean, not only for what he does on the mound, but his teammates like having him out there. So he's a guy that, if this team is going to accomplish what I believe and what they believe they can accomplish, Marcus has to be a huge part of that, and I believe he will be. I don't know the answer on some of the run game stuff for you, but that's why Coach V and that staff is get paid, the big bucks to make those kind of decisions, and decide how they want to go about that. So I'm sure that there will be some adjustments made. But yeah, like you said, he's a guy that is too talented to not be in the mix here down the stretch.
Yeah, so that's why I'm really intrigued to see kind of where Tennessee lines up this weekend, what those probable pitchers are going to be when they turn them in. I guess everybody does it on Wednesday this week. Wouldn't shock me if Tony says Liam Doyle TBA TBA, because that's happened before in the past. But I'm really intrigued to see kind of what this looks like. And then once you get past this weekend, hopefully you win the series, but we'll see. Like, then you're in postseason. It's kind of just like mixing and matching, from wherever you go. Not to go too far into inside baseball, I don't want you to give away any secrets or anything, but I mean, you've been a part of these conversations before. I mean, what's Frank Anderson, what's Josh Elander, what's Tony Vitello? What are they doing to Tennessee's pitchers, specifically Marcus? What are they telling him right now to try to fix some of these issues with runners on base?
Yeah, I mean, it's I don't know that there's one thing they're telling him or anything like that. I think it's just a conversation of the first thing is communication. The more you're talking on defense, the more your feet are moving, and the more your mouth is moving on defense, the better you're going to play. Um, Communicating and moving your feet can solve a lot of issues, whether it's errors or not having a guy in the right spot to cover the bag. If you've talked about that beforehand, then you kind of are expecting and anticipating what's going to happen rather than reacting to what's happening. So that's the biggest thing. And then yeah, just getting guys on the same page, whether it's how we're going to hold a runner or how we're going to cover a bag, like I've talked about. So that's maybe not the best answer, but it starts with communication and with always understanding that there's somewhere you can be on in every play to make a difference.
And again, these are only highlighted because you're not. I thought the at bats, I thought the offense was better this past weekend. Still leaving way too many guys on base. In fact, Tennessee left 22 men on base over the series. Vanderbilt left 11. Tennessee, I think, was like 1 for 8 or 9 or whatever on Sunday with runners in scoring position, whatever it was. But I thought the at bats have been better. But it's all highlighted when you're playing sloppy defense. Tennessee 6 errors, Vanderbilt 1 error. Sunday, that first inning was just flat out atrocious. I mean, you got poor freshman Tegan Coons, and in my opinion, the staff just babies him way too much. Just let him go. But anyway, you got a failed pickoff attempt when you have a muff catch at first on a pickoff throw that goes over, and then you have a throwing error by Cannon, and there's one run on the board, and it's like, well, what just happened? I mean, like it's like bad news bears, and so like you've got to play a cleaner version of baseball because like in years past, 2022, 23, all that stuff was kind of hidden or not talked about enough because you were averaging 7-8 runs in home games or whatever. So I'll be intrigued to kind of see how Tennessee tries to respond and move on from this. Let me ask you about Tegan Coons. I again, this staff has forgotten more baseball than I will ever know. Like Tegan Coons, like he was humming, man. Like 48 pitches, 3 innings and 2/3, and like the bullpen's been shaky the last month. So like, why are you trying to get to it quicker? I know the guy that homered off him earlier was back at the plate, but nobody on base, 2 outs. Like, why are you going getting Tegan Coons there? I mean, it feels like they've had the restrictor plate on Tegan Coons all year long. Whereas the guy they put in the game for him normally, Braden Krenzel, another talented freshman, they'll throw him into hell and high water. They trust him more. It feels like, and that bothered me on Sunday. Like I thought Tegan Coons deserved to continue to have a true start.
Yeah, so going back to what you said before, we've talked about how quality at bats are kind of the number one stat that Tennessee baseball keeps offensively, and they've always said for the most part, there's some information to back it up. If you finish above 50% in quality at bat percentage, you're going to win probably 85% of those games. But those percentages become extremely skewed when you don't play catch. So it's stuff like walks and errors that can skew those percentages to where even if you're putting together quality at bats, you could find yourself on the losing side of a game. And then to your question about Tegan. I mean, he's performing well, and it kind of the way you were describing it reminds me of Xander too, where you could argue at times last year he was doing everything right, but just not having that extra level of I don't know, call it trust from the staff to keep going and going and going. But he earned that throughout the season, and I think Tegan's doing the same thing, earning that trust. So yeah, I think he's going to have every opportunity in this postseason, especially as you start playing more games in a shorter period of time. I think we'll see him have the opportunity to stretch it out a little bit further.
You were a part of so many winning teams and a lot of wins throughout your Tennessee career. I'm sure you don't know this off the top of your head, but were there a ton of games that you guys won where the at bat percentage, the good at bat percentage was maybe below 50%? Like, did you guys win your fair share of games when maybe that percentage was 45% or 47% or whatever, but the talent level and the pitching and the defense was just so good that you were able to overcome it?
The numbers typically don't lie. It's pretty. I'd have to look back and see exactly what it is, but I think it's almost flipped on its head. So I think you win about 85% of the time when you're above 50% quality at bats, and you win probably 15 to 20% of the games when you're below that 50% line.
Yeah, I mean, sometimes baseball is baseball. Like you dominate down there at LSU, and then you have one bad inning in the ninth inning, and you go home a loser. It's like, what just
Yep.
happened? It's like,
Yeah.
is that posted on like the bulletin board when you go in the clubhouse or anything?
Um, I know he gives it out in a handout form at least once a year, maybe towards the start of the season or something like that.
Gotcha, gotcha. All right, Tennessee's concluding the regular season at Arkansas. It's a place of Tennessee hadn't played at Arkansas much, but hasn't won at Arkansas since 2015. I think 1-9 in the last 10 matchups. This is a club that's really good. It swept Texas a couple weeks ago. It took, I want to say, 2 of 3, or maybe I don't have it off the top of my head. They just played Arkansas, or just played LSU, excuse me. Really good ball club. Going to be playing at home. It's not going to be super easy, but what's that environment like, and ultimately playing at a program that's got a proud baseball tradition?
That's the fun one for me at least. I think I've got LSU's stadium at number one toughest environment to play in, and then right there behind it, I've probably got Arkansas. When they start calling the Hogs, that's pretty fun to be down in the field when they're doing that, and it's even more fun when you can perform on the field in a way that allows them to not call the hogs later in the game. So that'll be I mean, it's mid-May SEC series, two of the arguably the top programs in the league for the last decade or so. So it's going to be a tough one.
Yeah, they dropped 2 of 3 down in Baton Rouge this past weekend. Yeah, LSU is the new #1 team in the country, so I should have known that. Obviously, recording this early in the week as well, so the other half of this podcast, I'll have all that ready to roll. How weird and funky is this week? So it's always Thursday, Saturday. Then you got a short turnaround. You got to go to Hoover, right? And depending on when you're going to start play, it looks like Tennessee's going to start play on Wednesday at some point. But play Wednesday, Thursday, maybe you continue on to win. It's single elimination this year, but this turnaround being on the road. I think you guys did this in 23 where you finished at South Carolina and then had to be in Hoover. I think y'all started on Tuesday. What's this window looking like, and how do you kind of go about it as I guess there's no school right now, so that's a good thing.
Yeah, no, the SEC tournament, Omaha is awesome, but outside of Omaha, the SEC tournament might be my favorite week of the year. It's just, I think it's fun. It reminds me of travel ball. Maybe it'll be different now without the double elimination, but I mean, you could play at 2 in the morning, you could play at 7:30 in the morning, fog, rain, whatever it is. So I don't know, that reminds me of growing up travel baseball. So I love that. There's Dave and Buster's next door. All the teams are in the same hotel. So that's fun for me. But as far as logistics, a lot of times it just depends where you end up. So if they're in Fayetteville, I mean, you could fly back to Knoxville and then drive the buses to Hoover. So I could see them doing that. We ended at Mississippi State in 22 and then just drove straight to Hoover. And then it rained to start the whole tournament, and we were the 1 seed, I think. So we didn't play till Thursday,
And
but
you won
no,
the whole thing, so you were there until Sunday night. Like,
yeah, so it can get a little funky with the logistics, but it's to me that's what college baseball is all about is no school, you staying in hotels with your friends and playing video games and playing baseball. So that's it.
I don't know if it was Xander. I'm sure it was Xander. Somebody told me that Xander was the Dave and Buster's guy. Like, hey, this is the guy that go play all the games and winnings. Is that correct?
Dave and Buster's fiend. I think he kept his card with all the points on it and rolled them over every year. So by last year he was just, I mean, he had them racked up.
That's funny. That is funny. All right, man. Give me a thought about this week, man. Like if you're Coach Charlie Taylor, kind of what are you telling the team? What do you want to see out of this team? Is obviously you want to win a series, and this team has played better away from Lindsey Nelson Stadium, which is so bizarre to say. But you want to win this series. You want to get some positive vibes entering this next phase of the season, which is postseason, because Tennessee's a postseason team no matter what. Hosting's on the line, obviously, but you can't think about it that if you're a player. What do you want to see from this team? What would you be telling this team heading into this final weekend series?
Yeah, to me, there's always a balance between how loose and how focused the team is. And I don't think, this might sound funny with some of the conversation we've had about errors or miscues, but I don't think focus is a huge problem for this team. To me, if anything, they're almost like too focused, trying too much. So, for me, at this point, you've had a few bad weeks in a row. I would turn it into, hey, let's go have fun. Let's go play baseball. Like we just talked about, school's out. All we've got to do for the rest of the year is just play baseball. It's warm weather. So yeah, the for me it's let's figure out let's remind ourselves that we play this game because it's fun and we love our teammates and we love the game and that's what it's about. And I think that approach is gonna pay off a lot more than going out there with everybody tight and gosh, we gotta win a series or it just that can snowball on you real quick, but just having fun playing baseball with your friends, that's the correct approach.
It's funny. Like this guy played for Tony Vitello for a couple of years. That's kind of how he ended his press conference on Sunday night. So, Charlie Taylor, as always, man, thanks so much for joining us, and we'll talk again next time. We'll talk again. It'll be in postseason play. So,
Sounds good. Go Vols.
As always, really appreciate Charlie Taylor for stopping by, showing some of his perspective, his thoughts on Tennessee baseball. We'll get into my conversation with Andrew Ellis of Inside Arkansas coming up next, but I do want to give a quick word to our friends over at Spivey King and Spivey LLP. If you've got a problem, let them find a solution for you. T and Trial Lawyers specialize in criminal defense, family law, personal injury, DUI, divorce, custody, alimony, personal injuries such as car wrecks, all that and more accidents. 80 years of combined experience. Spivey King and Spivey LLP provides representation throughout state and federal courts in Northeast Tennessee. The firm has a vast amount of trial experience. This practice has been in place for 43 years with this specific partnership since 2012, while also having partners who are energized for today's modern legal demands. Practicing primarily in Northeast Tennessee, the Tri-Cities of Sullivan County, as well as Hawkins County, Washington County, and surrounding areas, the firm has won multiple awards and have attorneys who are rated by super lawyers in Mid-South with real trial experience. Whether you've been injured in a car accident, need help with a divorce, help with custody of your children, or you've been accused of a crime, Spivey King and Spivey LLP, they can help you. 142 Cherokee Street, Kingsport, Tennessee. You can go see them in person. A free consultation by dialing the phone number 423-245-4185, 423-245-4185. You can check them out online at SpiveyKingandSpiveyLLP.com. Spivey King and Spivey LLP. You got a problem? Let them find a solution for you. TN Trial Lawyers. Got Andrew Ellis on the show here today. He's from Inside Arkansas, covering the Arkansas baseball team. Does a phenomenal job. And Andrew, appreciate the time as always, man. Arkansas, pretty solid baseball team, right? I mean, your typical Arkansas Razorbacks, 41-11. You are 18-9 in SEC play, second in the SEC right now. Going to be a top 8 seed overall when all this is said and done. What's the year been like so far covering this team, and what's the vibe in the fan base right now as we've reached the final series of the regular season?
Well, you look at it from a big picture standpoint. You look at the record, you look at the standing, and you kind of just look at even the numbers, and you say, man, there's not really much to dislike about this Razorback team. But they have lost 4 of their last 5 series. Now, it's been a lot of competitive series. Lost a close one to Georgia, lost a close one in LSU this past weekend. It's not like they've been playing bad baseball. But I think this fan base is a little bit of a scarred fan base with how the postseason has played out for the Hogs the last 2 seasons. There's a lot of tension, a lot of anxiety. And so this Razorback team, we all kind of feel like has all the pieces needed to make a deep run, but there's a lot of pressure. And so no matter what, Arkansas could be undefeated right now. This fan base would be feeling the weight of that a little bit. And so you're battling a little bit of that this time of year, but the Hogs have put themselves in a very good spot. If they get 1 win this weekend, if they avoid getting swept at home, I think that would probably be enough to clinch a national seed. And so if you can play at home in the postseason, I think this Razorback team's got a good chance, a lot of pieces to make a deep run, but you just never know once you get into this tournament.
Man, it's interesting, like you say that, because Tennessee right now has lost 4 straight series, lost 5 of 6, and like the difference here for Arkansas is 2 weeks ago, I remember, Arkansas sweeping Texas, who was number 1 in the country at the time. So like you have that variable in there, and it's like you kind of forget that they have lost a couple of series in a row and all that. So 2 programs really looking for some momentum entering postseason play for sure. Really good team at home. What does Arkansas do well? What does Arkansas do best? When Arkansas is playing its best, what's it doing?
Well, I think the big difference between this year's Arkansas team and the last couple, because, last year with Hagen Smith, you had maybe the best pitching staff in the country, but Arkansas was kind of bottom 4 or 5 in most hitting categories. The lineup has been the consistency for Arkansas. I mean, you look at the numbers, they're top 3 in the country in average. They're top 3 in the SEC in slugging. They're top 3 in the SEC in on base. Not top 3 in stolen bases, but this lineup is powerful. They're deep. They hit for power. They've got right-handed hitting. They've got left-handed hitting. Their 9-hole hitter, Justin Thomas, has been awesome. There's some depth to the lineup. And so I would say just the consistency of the lineup has been the strength of this team. And I would also say the pitching depth. It's interesting with Tennessee looking at this matchup, because with Tennessee, you've got a number 1 and number 2 starter in Doyle and Phillips that are just lights out. And then the depth after that kind of falls off. Arkansas is the exact opposite, where they've got about 10 or 12 arms they really like, but they don't necessarily have that. Zach Root's a really good Friday night starter, but they don't have that Hagen Smith type guy at the beginning. They don't have a weekend rotation where it's just, hey, we know who we're starting each week. These are our guys. Let's go out there and do it. So you kind of wonder, does this team have the front line, top level pitching to make it work? But they do have depth. You go on down the line, you can go to their number 9, 10, and 11 guys, and it's a guy throwing 97, a guy that they feel confident in. It's just about kind of finding the right roles for this Razorback team. I would also say the bullpen has been, there's been a lot of questions with the starting rotation. What's helped Arkansas in SEC play is their bullpen has led the conference in bullpen ERA. It's kind of bailed them out of some situations. So I'd say pitching depth and just overall lineup consistency.
Let's go back to that offense. You're looking at. I'm looking at the the PDF right here, and you got 7 of the 9 quote unquote everyday starters, which one of those guys is out for the year. So I guess you can get 7 of 8 hitting over 300. The one that's not is at 297, which is obviously not very bad. 104 home runs on the season. Tennessee, of course, 4 straight years of 100+ home runs. Arkansas is probably in that category as well. Who's kind of the straw that kind of stirs the drink, if you will, in that lineup? It feels like from talking with you earlier, it's probably a Major League Baseball, maybe the first shortstop that'll be taken in the Major League Baseball draft.
Yeah, Vahiva Aloy at shortstop. I mean, he looks the part. The numbers speak for themselves a little bit. He transferred He transferred last year from Sacramento State, where he was an outstanding freshman. His brother Kahio Aloy, who are going to be sitting there in the middle of that lineup, they kind of are the big stars that are going to get a ton of attention on TV. You guys are going to be sick of hearing them by the end of the weekend because the announcers love to just gush over them and talk about them growing up in Hawaii and all that. But those guys are kind of what everything is built around. You have 2 big, powerful right-handed bats there in the middle, and then a couple good pieces around it. I mean, Cam Kojal and Charles Davalon have been the recipients of teams pitching around the Aloy brothers, and so those guys have gotten their opportunities, and they've been able to do a lot of damage. But I think it kind of all goes around those guys. And that was a big part of why LSU was able to beat Arkansas last weekend. Is there were several big moments where those guys would come up with bases loaded, 1 out, first and second, 2 out, whatever it was. They were able to make pitches to the Aloy brothers when they needed to. And so I would say those 2 guys that are going to be sitting there in the number 2, number 3 spots in the lineup, it's all kind of around them. But like I said, you've got guys around them that you can't just outright pitch around the Aloy brothers because those other guys can hurt you a little bit. And so I think when I look at this Razorback lineup, it definitely starts with the Aloy brothers, but I'm always looking at guys like Kojal, guys like Iredale to kind of take advantage of those opportunities when teams predictably will pitch around them a little bit.
And if you heard that name, Kozil, that is from Vanderbilt last year. So that's that. I was talking with Andrew before the interview, and I was saying, I remember him from a couple years ago. He's like, you probably remember him from Vanderbilt. And I'm like, that makes more sense. It's the transfer portal era. Everybody's just going everywhere. Let's go to the rotation, man. Spend a little time talking about Zach Root, Friday night guy. Obviously, the numbers are pretty solid. But then work your way into Gage Wood, who only 6 starts on the season, missed a big chunk of the year, but looks like he's coming back, and he's kind of slid back into that Saturday night role or the Game 2 role for the Razorbacks, and being Gage Wood and kind of trying to add some stability to a starting rotation that's is trying to compete with a bullpen that's been dang near elite.
It's fascinating with this Arkansas starting rotation. You go back to even the fall, like even before the fall started, there weren't a ton of candidates for this starting rotation. They bring in a guy in Zach Root, who is a transfer from ECU, who was a Saturday starter for ECU for a team that, is always in the NCAA tournament, a really good program. He's got a lot of experience. The stuff, I mean, is it's not like blow you away type of stuff, but I mean, he's got a fastball that'll touch the mid-90s. He mixes in a big curveball. He throws a cutter. His changeup might be his best pitch. He's got a legitimate arsenal. So with the experience, the strike throwing, the stuff, like it just all makes sense. So we kind of knew he was going to be in that rotation. Landon Beidelshees was Zach Root was the number 1 pitcher in the portal this past year. Landon Beidelshees was the number 2 pitcher in the portal. Arkansas gets him, and they thought that was going to be kind of what shored things up. Landon Beidelshees has not necessarily been that guy for them. He's been a little bit inconsistent as a left-hander on that Sunday role. But Gabe Gackle is a guy that we came into the year thinking, this guy's a true sophomore, blue chip prospect, one of the top prospects in his class. This time next year, I'm sure we'll be talking about him as a top prospect. And he was kind of expected to be the guy that led this whole thing. And then you had Gage Wood, an Arkansas kid who's been here for 3 years, been kind of working his way to get into this role. You had those 4 names. You knew you had to make a decision between who's going to be the starting rotation, but it wasn't like there was 7 or 8 options and you had to sift through it. It was like, hey, these are the 4 guys. We got to take one of these out, but like these are the 4 guys. And so you kind of came into the year thinking, how's it going to shake out? But Arkansas is going to have a really good rotation. We kind of knew there was some stability there, but it just really hasn't played out that way. Gabe Gackle had a lot of struggles. He had that classic sophomore slump to start his year. They end up moving him to the bullpen, and he's been lights out since then. Gage Wood is kind of the guy stuff-wise that makes sense as a starter. He missed 7 weeks in the middle of the season, and so there was a little bit of a lull there where they were trying to piece things together. All of a sudden, you have on paper, great rotation that now is kind of trying to piece it together a little bit. And, of course, Beidelshees has had his inconsistencies. Zach Root has been the calming presence for this Arkansas starting rotation. He just kind of checks all the boxes. He's not great in any particular area, but he's good everywhere. And so he's just one of those guys that brings a lot of stability. Went 8 scoreless against Texas a couple weeks ago, held down a really good LSU lineup on Friday night, should have gotten the win on Friday last week. He's kind of the one that if things go well with Zach Root, they can always piece it together. But when Zach Root doesn't pitch well, everything falls apart for this Arkansas pitching staff. And so they're counting on him to give them a good outing on Friday night. And then you've got some really talented guys and Gage Wood, Gabe Gackle, Landon Beidelshees. You don't need them all to be great, but for Arkansas, you need one of those guys to just step up and give you what they're capable of giving you.
So it'll be Zach Root in game 1, it'll be Gage Wood in game 2, and then you think they'll probably do TBA for game 3, but probably going to be Beidelshees?
Yeah, that's what they've done the last 2 weeks is they've announced TBA, which is kind of like a little message to Beidelshees that, hey, you got to be ready to roll.
Yeah.
And it hasn't gone great for Beidelshees. He went just 2 innings the other day against LSU, gave up 3 runs. And so there's going to be whoever starts that Sunday game is going to have a very short leash. Will we see some experimentation? I don't know. It actually wouldn't surprise me. It's kind of weird to go into the final regular season weekend of the year and not really know. But that's kind of where we're at. But I would imagine, we're going to see a TBA in game 3. Gage Wood, I would imagine, is going to get that game 2 start, and we'll just work from there.
And again, if it's not him, who would it be for game 3? Geichel, I guess?
It could be Gackle. Gackle's a guy that, on paper makes sense as a starter. I mean, stuff-wise certainly has it. I wonder if at this point in the season, Gackle has become maybe too valuable in his closing role because he came in and threw some clutch innings for Arkansas last week. There's a name kind of off the wall. Aiden Jimenez is a guy that, while everyone else was kind of struggling earlier in the year, he was the stabilizing force in the bullpen, and Arkansas would use him for lengthy outings. And he's a guy that transferred from Oregon State, was kind of in the mix to be a weekend starter there. He has not started a game at Arkansas, so I don't want to go out on a limb and be like, he's starting this weekend for sure, but he's a guy that, from a stuff standpoint, could do it. A lot of fans were kind of rallying for him to start earlier in the year. I think if there were ever a time to make that kind of move, now would maybe be the time to do it. But I also could see the case for just running it back with Landon Beidelshees. I could also see, Gabe Gackle might be, from a talent standpoint, makes all the sense in the world. So we'll see how they go about it. But really, all these guys are going to pitch big innings for Arkansas. It's just a matter of what kind of role it's going to be in.
You brought up Aiden Jimenez as one of those guys that's kind of under the radar. I was going to ask you, I'm looking at the ERA numbers right now, 17 appearances, 16 appearances, 21 appearances, ERAs of 2.23, 2.51, 3.05. I mean, the numbers are really, really good. Who is another one of those bullpen arms that's going to be maybe a Swiss Army knife, maybe come in and throw 3 innings of long relief? Who's somebody to look out for that's a really nice bullpen arm for Arkansas?
So I'm going to give you one that if you look at his numbers, they jump off the page at you. Parker Coyle has been a guy. He's a left-handed pitcher for Arkansas with an ERA under 1. And you see that ERA and you think, man, this guy must have crazy good stuff. Not exactly. He's 90-91, left-handed, likes to throw off speed, will pitch backwards to guy, big-time strike thrower. He just made his return to action last week. This dude missed 6 weeks of action, had a little bit of a back injury, which I don't know how that happened. But he had a back injury, which I guess if you're a pitcher, you'd rather have your back injured than your arm injured. But he misses 6 weeks of action and then makes his return last week against LSU. The situation they brought him into was a 3-run game with runners on first and second, 1 out, bottom of the 9th inning. That's the situation they brought Parker Coyle back into, which tells you a little bit about how they view him and how much they trust him. So I don't know if it's going to end up being a 3-inning outing. I don't know if he's going to throw maybe to 2 hitters on Friday or Thursday and then 2 hitters on Saturday. I think you could possibly see him twice. He's going to be a pivotal arm for Arkansas. Another guy that I think, maybe is flown under the radar a little bit, Christian Fouch, coming into the year was projected as maybe the top reliever in the draft. Everyone kind of thought he was going to step up and be the closer for Arkansas. This is a guy that has touched 100 several times in his career. From a stuff standpoint, you catch him on the right day and you'd be like, wow, this guy could close in the big leagues right now. But then you catch him on the wrong day and he's hitting guys, he's getting behind in the count, he's throwing fastballs right down the middle. And it's been a little bit of a work in progress, but he's a guy that if all things go well, you would watch him pitch this weekend and be like, wow, is this the best pitcher in the world? Like, he's just one of those guys. So you kind of have a little bit of a mix of options there you have a right-hander that so I gave you a right-hander that throws 101 and a lefty that throws 89. Those are the two guys I'm looking at this weekend.
Gotta love baseball, man. I mean, there's a place for everybody, right? There's a place for everybody. Hey, what's the environment going to be like this weekend at Arkansas? I know Tennessee went down there in 23 when Tennessee was struggling and I believe got swept. Tennessee is struggling right now, trying to avoid being swept on the road here to end the regular season. But one of the really good venues in college baseball. Obviously, Tony Vitello is very familiar with this program. What's the vibe? What's the energy level going to be like as the Hogs and the Balls get going here for the final weekend of the regular season?
So that should be the most fun part of this weekend. Based on, early, I'm just kind of putting feelers out there, seeing about tickets and stuff, seeing if I can get some friends, some family, some tickets. Based on how hard it is to get tickets, I think that's a very good sign for what this environment could be like at Baum-Walker Stadium, which, again, is one of, I don't know if it's the best environment in college baseball, but it's in the top 2, 3, 4, whatever you want to do. Yeah. It's up there with the best parks. And so on any given weekend, it can be as electric as anywhere in the country. When you add in a program like Tennessee, obviously the defending national champions, of course, there's the history with Tony Vitello. Hog fans know him very well. Most Hog fans view him fondly, but there's some that really like to get after the guy. And the funniest thing is there's this big misconception that like him and Dave have this beef because they got in that argument in 2021. Those guys are good friends. Like they talk all the time. Like they're probably going to go out to dinner Thursday or Friday night. But I think the fan base certainly. I mean, you're probably not going to be stunned to hear this. People kind of like cheering against Tony Vitello. I don't know if you've caught this. I don't know if you've noticed this as a Tennessee guy. And so fans are certainly going to get riled up. You add that in with it being the final regular season weekend of the season, even though it ends up, I guess it's a top 20 matchup rather than potentially a top 5 matchup. Yeah. But you got two really good programs, two really good teams, two really good coaches, also fan bases that kind of like to get after each other a little bit. And so it has all the makings of what should be a pretty wild atmosphere and environment, and we'll see if it works out that way. Hopefully the weather holds off. That's another thing is we've had really bad weather here in Northwest Arkansas that has affected just about every single series, even the Texas series. They weren't sure if they were going to have to move it around and stuff like that. And so I think Hog fans would really appreciate just playing good, clean baseball with good weather and just having fun.
Dude, you're preaching to the choir, man. I mean, the last 3 weekends specifically have been altered by weather. There's been more in SEC play, and I mean, it's been a frustrating season for Tennessee baseball coming off the Natty and just, the slump that it's in right now. But you add in the weather, it's just been kind of a headache. So I'm with you, man. Hopefully there's 3 days, clear skies, warm weather. Let's get it in. Let's get it out. Let's go home on Sunday, and then let's get ready for Hoover. So it should be good. Andrew, appreciate it, man. Thanks so much for joining us. What do you guys have coming up on Inside Arkansas? What are you doing this week to get ready for this series and anything else Arkansas related?
So, yeah, man, we'll do our Inside Arkansas live show every day at noon. We really appreciate doing that. And then our baseball show, I guess I'm the baseball guy for Inside Arkansas. So I've got my show, The Bombastic Podcast, which we put out episodes just about every day. But yeah, we'll have episodes leading up to the series. We'll have game recaps on the Bombastic Podcast. So if Tennessee whips up on Arkansas and y'all want to watch me be miserable, y'all can tap into the Bombastic Podcast, and I'll be sitting there looking into the camera, all depressed about it. It's always tough to do those game recaps whenever your team just gets waxed. It's always a tough one. But yeah, we're gonna be having some fun, man.
Thankful that I don't do those game recap shows because there'd be a lot of those the last last month or so for Tennessee. So, yeah, I mean, 2 teams that are kind of struggling right now, which is, again, I continue to go back to Arkansas sweeping Texas last week or 2 weeks ago, and I'm like, this team's playing pretty good. Going to be at home. Tennessee's 1-9 in the last 10 matchups. Tennessee hadn't won at Walker Stadium since 2015 or whatever, but still 2 programs that very much need some momentum heading into the postseason. So we'll see what happens. Should be great. Andrew, as always, man, thanks so much.
Yeah, man. Really appreciate you having me on, man. Had a great time.
A lot of great stuff there from Andrew Ellis of Inside Arkansas. If you want to learn more about the Hogs and, kind of what makes that team tick, or here lately what's been going wrong with Arkansas, go check out Inside Arkansas. Check out his Bombtastic podcast. He does an awesome job over there at Inside Arkansas. All right, last couple of minutes. I won't spend a whole lot of time here. I know we've already had a lengthy show here. Hope you've enjoyed it. Tennessee, Arkansas, massive weekend coming up. Both teams kind of trending in the wrong direction. Both teams did a series win in the worst way. If you look at the D1 baseball, field of 64 projections, you would know it because Arkansas is still the 3rd overall seed, but still they've lost 4 of the last 5 series. Tennessee has dropped 5 of the last 6. It's one of those where pride. I mean, you need to win something, right? And you need to have some good momentum heading into Hoover in the Southeastern Conference tournament. Big news on Wednesday: the pitching probables were turned into the SEC at a Tennessee and Arkansas series, and Tennessee's going to make a change-up. On 4 days rest, Tennessee's going to go Marcus Phillips on Thursday night, Liam Doyle, because of his workload, 2 appearances in the Auburn series, threw a lot the other night, and plus that blister that keeps popping up. They're going to keep Liam Doyle on normal rest for his Friday start. That'll be game 2 of the series, and then Tegan Kuhn's coming up in the Saturday finale in game 3. This might be a look you see in NCAA regionals as well, especially if you're a 1 seed. But regardless, this could be a look that you see in regionals. So I don't hate it. Marcus on 4 days rest, not great. However, he didn't throw that many pitches in his last go about, and they can kind of maybe combo that on Thursday, especially when they're trying to manage him with the base runners. Now, one thing that's important to point out, and I'll mention this here in a moment when I get to Arkansas's offense, they don't steal a lot of bags. Okay, so managing the run game shouldn't be that big of an issue for Marcus compared to teams that are very aggressive, like Vanderbilt, like Kentucky, and like Texas A&M that have the scout on them for sure, and Ole Miss that have the scout on them. So we'll see what happens. But it's going to be Marcus Phillips on Thursday, Liam Doyle on Friday, and Tegan Kuhn's on Saturday. Arkansas will counter with Zach Root, who's been their Friday night guy, lefty, 6-3 is the record, 3.88 ERA. TBA on game 2, and then the finale, they're going to go with Gage Wood, a righty, 1-1, a 5.51 ERA, and I'll get to him in a moment. He's been coming back from injury here of late. So, Zach Roots made all 13 weekend starts, 3.88 ERA, 6-3 is the record, a team high 72 innings pitched, struck out 98 batters, walked 24. Opponents are hitting .219 against him. He's been solid. He's been very, very solid. Not like elite, but super, super solid. Top of that rotation. Gage Wood, who's going to start the finale. He's continuing to work back from a shoulder injury that kept him out of action for 7 weeks this year. He's been back for about a month now, but kind of like A.J. Russell, they've been little bit, more kind of building. Projected to be around 80 pitches this weekend in conversations I had. Andrew Ellis as well in the previous segment said that. The righty's 1-1 on the year, 6 starts, 5.51 ERA, 16 innings and a third, so not that much of a volume. He struck out 30 batters, walked 4. Strikeout to walk ratio is really good. Opponents are hitting just .222 against him. Now, if it's not, I guess since they left TBA open, it could be a number of different guys. Landon Bedshelley. I know I'm saying that wrong. I'm so sorry. Bedeshell. That's still wrong. Anyway, that guy, he's a lefty. 4-0 is the record. 4.99 ERA, however. It's been an up and down season for him. 12 starts, 13 appearances. 4-0 is the record. 52 innings and a third, second most on the squad. Struck out 54 batters, walked 16. Opponents are hitting, though, .270 against him. He's been getting touched up here of late. He's giving up 13 home runs on the year. The next closest pitcher has given up 7 less for Arkansas. So that's probably a reason they've been toying with the starting rotation here of late. But obviously this guy is a candidate to start game 2. Gabe Gackle is also a candidate. 4-2 is the record, a 5.05 ERA. Started the season as the Friday night guy before being moved to the bullpen this past month. 9 starts, 13 appearances, 51 innings and 2/3. 25 batters. He's walked. He's struck out 62. And he could be an option for game 2, but also a guy out of the pen. A couple of relievers I want to highlight. Parker Coyle, lefty, 2-0 is the record, 0.57 ERA. Big-time high-leverage guy, okay? He missed about 6 weeks of the season, but he's been really, really good when he's been available. Righty Christian Fouch, he can pump 100 miles an hour. 1-0 is the record, of 4.15 ERA. Tied for the team lead with 16 appearances. Tied for the team lead with 16 appearances. Dylan Carter, a righty, 2.23 ERA, 6-0. He leads the team with 21 appearances, and he's one of those guys that's been super, super improved. Stuck with it, and has really blossomed here in his senior season. Another one to highlight that would be interesting, he made his season debut last week. Hunter Dietz, 1 appearance, gave up a couple of runs, so 1 appearance, 13.50 ERA, that's inflated. He just had 1 appearance last year, but he's a lefty that pumps 98. So that is always, always notable. The pitching staff's pretty solid. Ranks 5th in the SEC with a team ERA of 3.96, 7th in strikeouts at 5.43, 2nd in fewest runs allowed with 2.07, 2nd in walks. They've allowed the second fewest walks in the conference in 1.52. The bullpen is without question the best part of the staff, and it's arguably the best bullpen in the Southeastern Conference. So the pitching staff, solid. Bullpen, pretty good. The offense, even better. Leads the conference in average 315, on base percentage 424, runs scored 468, hits 548, runs batted in 440. The Razorbacks are 3rd in slugging percentage, 5th in doubles. They've hit 102 doubles on the year. 3rd in home runs, Tennessee 2nd. 3rd in home runs with 104. 2nd in total bases with 976, and 6th in walks with 275. I think 8 of the regulars, or 8 of like the 10 guys that play an awful lot, are hitting over 300 on the season. The Aloy brothers, they're kind of leading the way at the top. One's a shortstop, hit 2nd in the order, 364 batting average, 17 home runs, driven in 54 runs. His brother is the designated hitter, Cuyo, and he hits 3rd, 356 average on the year, leading the team with 66 RBI, 13 homers, 14 doubles. Left fielder Charles Davelin, 349 average, 13 homers, 51 runs driven in. Former Vanderbilt Cam Koziel, if you remember that name, second base cleanup hitter, 341 average, 12 homers, 55 ribbies. Right fielder Logan Maxwell, 328 average. Catcher Ryan Helfrich, 314 average in the heart of the order. And center fielder Justin Thomas Jr., 303 average with 8 home runs. So again, there's not many soft spots in this order. It's a really, really good offensive club. Third baseman Brent Iredale, 297 hitter, so just right under 300. Also has double-digit home runs with 12 on the season. Stolen bases, again, not many. They rank, let's see here. Arkansas is tied for last in the SEC with 39 stolen bases, 14th in stolen base attempts of the league with just 51 on the year. So that is, again, an encouraging sign in this series as Tennessee struggled to manage the run game at points in times. That's a look at Arkansas. Big weekend coming up. Massive weekend in terms of NCAA regional projections. But more than anything, Tennessee needs a series win heading in with some momentum into Hoover for the SEC tournament. We'll have you covered at Volquest.com all weekend long, Tennessee and Arkansas. And then, of course, the SEC tournament, which is coming up next week. That time of the year, guys, it'd be better to go into Hoover with a series win. Let's see what happens. Should be an interesting one, and we'll have it covered for you right here on the porch. Big thank you to our friends over at Spivey King and Spivey LLP. If you got a problem, let them find a solution for you. T and Trial Lawyers. That phone number for a free consultation, that is 423-245-4185, 423-245-4185. You can visit them online at SpiveyKingandSpiveyLLP.com. If you got a problem, let them find a solution for you. T and Trial Lawyers, the presenting sponsor right here, the porch, for the 3rd straight season. Big thank you to them. Thank you guys for joining us here. Hope you enjoyed the content. Had a guest on from Arkansas, of course, Charlie Taylor. Big weekend coming up. Let's see what happens. We'll talk about it on the General's Quarters. We'll see you there this weekend right here at Volquest.com.